Here's the tape starts here, folks. Good morning, this is Shippy the Explorer, bringing you a foggy and frozen College Park this morning. Welcome to Shippy the Explorer television and video. Man, let me put on this struggling to put on. Wow, the sun is struggling against the fog and the clouds to come up. It can't produce the heat to melt the snow. We are cold, we're probably in our teens. The cars have to be warmed up so that they can move. The birds are still. The deers are nowhere to be found. And you hear the rumbling of the traffic. But each chimney of the house, it's so cold that the steam, they're coming up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if down here is steaming too. The car is steaming. That means extremely cold, folks. Extremely cold. And the sky on this element is clear. Clear. What an extreme temperature in this neck of the woods. My golly. And you want to come to America? Oh yes, come on. You're welcome. Regardless of what is happening now, you can still come to this land and progress. Achieve. Be the best you can be. Come, but they want you to come the proper way. I'm not encouraging anything illegal, but I'm encouraging you to come. But regardless of what is happening, regardless of winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, the extreme of this country, it's still beautiful. The moon is right there. It's running away from the sun, but sooner or later the sun will catch up. And as the sun struggles in the east to overcome that cloudiness, so when you come, you have to struggle against the elements, the drawbacks, the prejudice, the political fighting, the power struggle, the hate. But all through that, you can succeed. And today's story, we continue the in-house series where I talk about coming to America. Coming to America, folks. I'm just going to talk about my experience. Even the front door is frozen. My golly. Come back into the warm house and let there be light. And let's move into discussion of coming to America. What do you face? Stay tuned. So let us peep through the bars, folks, and see the sun has finally come up a little bit more. Now, we're back to the argument of coming to America. Coming to America. In my case, I was lucky. I got the opportunity by my mother, who wanted all of us to regroup. She was in America already in the 60s, maybe 62, 63. And she wanted all the kids. I was the oldest in the family. And but she had sent for some of the kids already. And by 1977, 78, 79, 77, she had gotten most of us up. And I was the last one. The first person, first child, but the last to come. So she filed a paper and I got through. I took the plane in April for the first time in 1979. And when the plane twisted itself, came off the runway and twisted in the air and outside Palisadas, we call it Palisadas. It's Norman Manley Airport now. I felt the shock of being in the air and thought I was going to fall out of the plane. And landing in Washington, D.C., came through Miami. But in Miami, coming to America, let's go back to Miami. I landed in Miami, and Miami was big then. And I'm looking around and, with my suitcase like a country boy and looking lost. I must have looked lost and looking up and reading all the signs. And what did happen to me? A woman on the left, on the right, and they just walk up to me like this, straight, and they walk up to me, and I thought they were coming to help me. And what they did, the woman on the right and the man on the left, and they flashed their coats open, and they showed me their guns. And they came to the left and the right, and they directed me with my suitcase and my junk and my first piece of clothes, few pieces of clothes, and say, come at me. They took me to a room and they said, oh, you know what we're about? We're about to search you. I was wondering, what the dickens is this? What are you searching me for? Oh, because I don't know if I'd asked them why, but they further explained that, we are Secret Service or whatever they are, and they are searching. They need 100 people to search all the Jamaicans coming through Miami. 1979. They searched me and they dug my suitcase up and my few pieces of old clothes and were thrown all over the place. So much, it seemed like it expanded. My clothes expanded in the suitcase. And then they walked away. After they finished, they didn't find anything. Because they had said, okay, they wanted 100 people to search the amount of Jamaicans coming out for drugs. I didn't have no drugs on me. I was just looking lost. But my suitcase had expanded. It seems like I'd gotten richer in America already because I'd gotten clothes. My clothes was tightly packed in the suitcase. And now after this search, I sat on that suitcase. They just walked off and said, oh, okay, bye. You're free to go. I tried to shut the suitcase, it wouldn't shut. I pushed the clothes back in, it wouldn't shut. I sat on the suitcase, it wouldn't shut. And eventually, I pushed the clothes in and squeezed, and I think I must have gotten maybe one clip or zip halfway zipped around. And I walked out of that room dejected and felt like a dog coming to America. I started to look around again in Miami, and I looked around and I looked around, still lost. Because you're in a new country and you never know where you're going. Miami's big. You try to come through there one of these days. All and behold, I saw the transfer, the connecting flight, and I made my way to that station. But the welcome into America I kept was strange, was extraordinary, was dramatic. I'm coming from a country that doesn't really have guns. Few guns, a little old farmer with his shotgun, the policeman with his little old rifle, little old revolver to the side. And the only time I've seen a gun fired in my life was when Mr. Hunter went down to Lawrence Tavern, and some old lady asked him to shoot the old dog. And they hold the old dog and they shot it. And it squeaked and died. But here I come to America already, and I saw 2 guns flashed in the front of my eyes. 1 woman, 1 man. Now, I'm going to mention the color or the tribe, because I'm not talking racial things today. I'm talking about coming to America. The power that you flash is flashed in front of you. Not a welcome. There's no sign in those days that I saw that says, welcome to America. But I managed to take the plane to Washington, D.C. Don't remember if it was American Airlines. Don't remember if it was Southwest didn't exist. I don't remember what I took, but I landed at National Airport, and I managed to come off that plane, and I walked out into America with my suitcase in hand and maybe another bag. And I was picked up by my mother and a friend, and we drove from National. But before that, the pilot had swung around the Washington Monument and said, welcome to Washington. And that's the Washington Monument. And we saw the pencil-like structure sticking in the ground and standing up like a statue, being proud, overlooking the whole of Washington and America. I'm not sure if it's it looks like a penis in the midst of this country. But when I landed and I got welcomed, we started to drive. We came over 14th Street Bridge, and there was a shock of my life. The girls were half naked along 14th Street. And among the short dress and the high heel and the exposed breasts, there were burnt out buildings that dotted the street. So in between it's light and darkness and short pants and short skirt and beautiful girls and unusual looking girls. Back then, I didn't know that some were probably men dressed up like girls. And those days, they were free. They were not really free, but it seemed like they were allowed to line the streets of 14th Street right up into town, selling the goods, the invisible goods that they hold within. And I came and I would marvel at that. I marveled at that. And I marveled what has happened to the city. And the friend that was driving says the buildings were burnt out when Martin Luther King was killed. And the people got hungry and they burned the building. And then I saw some other buildings. They took up a whole block. And that was another marvel. Coming to America. Coming to America. A building that takes up a block that big. My golly. We came around a corner and I saw a car, and maybe it was a whole Ford station wagon, and that car took up the whole street, folks. It was so big. It took up the whole bloody street. I didn't know it would come around the corner. 1979. Maybe a Ford or Chrysler, but it took up the streets. Half of the street. But I made it home into Tuckamore Park, and that's where I settled down for the first time in America. But I came through legally. The paperwork were okay. Although I got flashed, the images of a gun were flashed in my face. My paperwork were good. And so, coming to America is a lovely thing if your paperwork is fine. Coming to America without paperwork gives you hope also. Gives you the idea to that you're coming to really make the best of yourself. In both cases it does. But if you're coming without the paperwork, I think you're a little bit more determined. But now, this is 2024, 25, and the policies are changed. It's more difficult to come. The welcome signs are not out for you. They're not out. It's all the opposite now. Back then it might have been neutral. Now it says, don't come. But I can't tell you not to come in that case, because that's your livelihood. But if you come with the paper, in my case, we are going to talk about how you make the best of this country. Stay tuned for the next chapter as we continue coming to America this morning.